Hello YouTube, welcome to my 2012 Cayman S, otherwise known as a 987.2. This one, I actually own this one. It's got the 3.4 liter and this is a PDK model, and it's in this very wonderful blue that I like, which also happens to be the same color as the last car I owned, which was a 350Z. So it's a little bit weird, but it was a good deal and I like blue, so there you go. This car is in full daily driver mode right now. I do use it daily. I drive it in the winter, I drive it in the summer, I throw my skis on the rack up there, I throw my bike up there, so it gets a lot of use. And as you can see, it's pretty dirty right now. It's early in the morning, and as I'm giving you a walk around here, today what I would like to do, that I've been waiting all winter for, is to put on a Borla. So I didn't want to go wash the car, come back, film, then drive home and have to wait for it to cool off again. So do some filming now while it's dirty, go home, wash it, let the engine and exhaust cool down, and then get to work on putting the Borla on, and then you'll see it again when it's clean, and probably with my summer wheels on, because I'm sick of these winter tires and I want to put the 19s back on for now. So I do have winter tires on. They're on Enkei NT03. I think they're plus M's. I got those for a very good deal. They are used right before winter. They need to be refurbished, and they're actually wider than my summer wheels, the Porsche stock wheels. So I think these will become my everyday tires, or possibly track tires. I want to, they're not in too bad shape, but they could stand a little refurb. I think I'm going to sand them down and clean them up. I had just got center caps, they're on their way. And I want to powder coat them, although I'm not quite sure what color I want to do. Blue car with red calipers I think kind of limits my options a little bit, because I don't want the wheels to clash too much with the calipers. So if you have any suggestions on colors, put them in the link below. That'd be very helpful. But yeah, let's take a look here. Tan interior, leather. It's got the push buttons for gear change, which I don't like, which will be changed. Some other things that I really want to change is I think I want to get an Android head unit to replace the stock head unit. And then I want to wire up a oil pressure gauge, which is the one thing that this car is missing: oil pressure and temperature. Although temperature I think I can get through ODB2. Pressure though, I'm going to have to install a little sensor. I'll do a video on that, and I want to connect it to a PLX device box, which will interface with the Android head unit, and then I can show gauges right on the screen there, which will be nice and handy without having to put up a pillar or extra gauge pod or something like that. So yeah, that's it for now. We're going to switch over here and get some video of the stock exhaust, and then get some in-car with the stock exhaust, and then go ahead and replace the exhaust. Here's how it sounds off the line stock. Alright, step one, clean the car. Way too hot to do this in the sun. Everything was drying too quick, so the switch camera angles, moving to the shade here. Step one, safety. Chalk the wheels. Actually, chalk the front ones and the back ones. Okay, time to get the car jacked up. This is the rear of the transaxle, or maybe it's just a transmission, I forget what the difference is. Anyway, get the jack in there and get this thing up. Apparently my floor jack doesn't have as much reach on this car, so it probably needs to be lowered. I guess that's the excuse I'll use to buy suspension at some point. But for now, gotta use these, I don't know, 2x6s or something like that. See if I can get it up. Get some jack stands in there. Next step is to get the wheel off. And remember that you need a wheel lock. Hold on. And then remember that on your back wheels you don't need one because you got longer wheel studs. If you don't know what these are, well, if you have a German car, you probably know what these are. If you don't, because we have these things, there's nothing to really align the wheel to when you put it back on. So they make these handy dandy things screw in to where your wheel stud would go. And then allow the wheel to come off without hitting anything, and lets you align them back up when you're putting it back on. Just kind of like that. Okay, here's a first look at what I think we have to do. I'm gonna have to go download the Borla instructions in a minute, but so over here we have the cat. It's still a little warm. We've got, you can see down in there, it's like one of these triangle flanges. There's a bolt there, a bolt on the other side, bolt there, which are probably going to be a little bit tough to get to. Got some heat shielding. I think that's the second cat, not quite sure. But the main thing over here is going to be getting to those 3 bolts. Nuts, I mean. Alright, let's go take a look at the other side. Alright, taking a look at the back here, these are the stock tips. These are actually, I think, considered sport tips. I don't really know what the difference is, but there's a bit of discoloration. You can see I tried to scrub that off before. It doesn't really want to come. So this is actually the first time I've been underneath the car since I got it. Let's see if I can get the camera in here. So we've got, that was the wheel arch that we were in before. This whole muffler right here comes to these tips. It's the same thing on the other side. Got a couple of bolts here to get the tips loose and this little slide clamp here, which I think will help those come out. And then we've got some other bracketry over here that has to come out. And being said, everything looks pretty decent under here. I don't see anything much to be concerned about right now, besides the salt that I got on the car from driving it this winter. This was a Virginia car, so it's probably the first time it's seen road salt, I'm guessing. Alright, let's go take a look at the Borla. Alright, and this is the Borla that I picked up. I got this off of eBay for a very good price. Such a good price that I'm a little concerned. So we'll see how the installation goes. It's it appeared to be the same part number as the one that's needed for this car, and all the pieces appear to be here, and it looks like it's in incredible shape. No dents, no dings, nothing too bad. The tips are slightly scuffed up, but nothing I'm going to be too concerned about. The reason you see those energy suspension bushings up in the corner over there is because the one thing that is missing is there's these little rubber isolators that go on either side of these holes to kind of isolate the exhaust from the cabin. And it did not come with those. I called Borla and asked them about them, and they don't really like to sell replacement parts, it seems like. So those four little rubber blocks, one would go on the bottom, one would go on the top. One they wanted like $80 for, and like a 6-week lead time because they had to custom make them or something like that. I don't know, whatever. So what I'm going to attempt to do is modify those guys to fit in those holes and act as isolators for the system. These are the tips. I think they're 4-inch tips instead of, I don't know, whatever's on there right now, 2.5 or 3. Like I said, I got a really good deal on this system. It's not a cheap system. New, it's $1,700 new. I got it for much less than that. So hopefully everything mates up and works. I chose this system because I think out of all the exhausts, it was the most affordable even at the new price, which is kind of crazy. However, I think it's one of the better sounding exhausts for this car as well. So I'm super excited to get this on. I've had it sitting around for the last couple months while it was cold and salty and snowy, and I've been kind of chomping at the bit to get this on. So let's get to work. Alright, well, I don't know if you can see it or not, but I tried to do one of these nuts off camera, and this is what happened. It snapped off on me. So that one goes right there, which this is why I love doing exhaust work, because almost everything always breaks on me, even though I've pre-soaked these in PP Blaster. So it's one down, one I'm going to have to drill out. Let me see if I can get these other two out and see if they come out or if they're going to break as well. So I'm using a 13 millimeter on a couple of extensions. And I'm actually going to switch over to a deep well for this one. So I find it, and I'm using like a DeWalt 3/8 inch impact, electric impact gun. Small, tiny, like little driver to see. Let's see what happens. Alright, nothing with that, so I'll switch over to a breaker bar. Alright, some movement, but I think it probably just let go. Looks like I'm going to be doing a lot of drilling. Alright, success. Got one out, and it was the hardest one. It's the one all the way at the top. You can see it right there. I had to use some really kind of kludgy setup here. 13 mil on 2 wobble bits and on a breaker bar, because I couldn't get any access through here with an extension. I couldn't get my ratchet on from this direction and couldn't get anything in from behind the strut over here except for this kludgy little contraption I had. Now if I had had a universal, or correction, if I knew where my universal joint was, probably would have made that easier, but at least that one came out. The threads on that bolt in there, stud, looks pretty good, so I think I just got to take these, get new hardware for everything and then drill out those other two, or pound out those other two studs. So anyway, I'm gonna go do the other side, and then I'm see what I've got left and make a trip to Napa, I guess. I forgot to mention something else. I ended up taking off this panel, which fits on this stud and that stud, and has a Torx screw that goes in there. So those are two plastic nuts and a Torx bit down there, which allowed me to access in through the side here just to see what I was doing. It didn't end up really helping me that much, but it wasn't hard to take off. So, and take a look at my catalytic converter there. Okay, enough of this fooling around. Alright, so it went kind of the same on the other side. Two studs broke. One was fine, so I'm going to have to fix that side, but I'm going to drop the exhaust first so I have more room. So it looks like what's going on here is this tube runs right across here, connects to the exhaust, and has another stabilizing bar that goes up here and connects into a bushing up there. So where I am right now is this is the tip of the exhaust, this is the muffler. So it looks like I've got to take these two bolts out on both sides, and then the exhaust will be free, and then I'll have to come back in and remove these supports. So I'm going to get some jack stands under here to keep this from falling on me when I take those out, and then I'll get it from the back and yank it out. Alright, I got the jack stand in place here, holding up the exhaust. I got a 13mm wrench holding the nut on one side. Let's see if I can break it. No problem. Okay, time to move on to the other side. Okay, at this point I think the exhaust should be loose, so I'm going to try and take it down. Let's see what happens. Gloves on, get my eye protection on. It's one side up and over. The exhaust manifold. The other side's up and over. Let's see if I can bench press this down without it falling on my face. Hasta la vista stock exhaust. Okay, now I gotta take that bracket off that was running across. This should be fairly easy. Famous last words. right where that support rail goes up, and I believe that these two up here look like the spot where the Borla will mount to. Alright, I'm not sure where the camera cut out there, but I did the other side. All the bolts came out, no problem. Now we're going to take this bracket out. Yay, weight reduction. Alright, so let's just look around here now. The whole exhaust is out. See the transmission a little bit better. Sticking out the back of the engine, which is over there someplace. So that's a shift linkage. The studs I'm gonna have to pound out or drill out. But yeah, pretty empty back here. Alright, time to give a little update on the exhaust flange. I have managed to get all of the broken studs out of both sides, although it did take a little bit of time. So what happened was I originally started drilling one of them out, and that was taking forever. And so I started thinking around, and I said to myself, hey, these things are pressed in, why don't I press them out? So I found this, and I put it on top of the broken piece and pushed it right out a little bit, and then drifted it out with a hammer and a drift. So that worked for, let's see, there was 4 total. That worked for 3 of them. The one that I had started drilling, I had drilled enough of it that I could not press it out, so I had to continue drilling, and that took the better part of, I don't know, 2 hours or something like that. But I got the new hardware, so we can continue on with the install. Before we continue on with the install, I have to agree with Chris Fix, and it's pretty much a requirement to start this thing without any mufflers. Pretty much just open headers and cats. So here we go. Sorry, neighbors. That was so loud I didn't even really want to rev it. Holy crap. Alright, here's where I'm going to try and make those little rubber mounts. So I got these energy suspension bushings. They're for sway bar end links, and they're quite a bit harder than I thought they were going to be. So this may not work as well as I think. I mean, I'll get it up and I'll get it mounted, but I think it's going to transmit a lot of noise and vibration into the cabin. So give it a shot. But probably should have just gotten standard stock replacement ones, which are made of rubber instead of poly. So I'm not really sure what the dimension is, but first thing I'm going to do is cut off this face right here, just a hacksaw. Alright, today we're going to see how many tools we can use incorrectly. I've already tried a hacksaw for this. This coping saw seems to be making quicker work of this. It's not perfect. In fact, it's far from even acceptable. However, it's good enough for what I need it for. Whatever. Alright, I think that came out better than the first time. I'm going to do that a couple more times. Okay, here's the final result. They all kind of came out the same height, but I don't really think it's super critical, so I'm not worried about it. I know it's a little bit hacky, but if Tavares can do it on a $100,000 Lambo, I think I can do it on a 2012 Cayman. Let's go put them in and see how they work. Like I said, I got a really good deal on this system. It's not a cheap system. New, it's $1,700 new. I got it for much less than that. So hopefully everything mates up and works.